We begin this morning with a Fox News alert, an apparent assassination attempt in Ukraine's second largest city as a missile strikes a government building in Kyiv. Ukraine now under assault from multiple directions as Russian forces are closing in now on Kyiv, the capital.
All right, at this hour, look at this satellite photo, a 40-mile-long Russian convoy just outside the capital city of Kyiv. Day 6 of fighting is underway as Ukrainians battle for their lives and their freedom against the Russian invasion. The war coming as President Biden is set to deliver the first State of the Union address of his 4-year term.
Meanwhile, the president is still facing multiple crises at home, including record inflation, a border disaster, and his approval rating has been plummeting. We'll have more on the State of the Union coming up. But first, let's go to Mike Tobin, who's live on the ground in Lviv. And Mike, as we look at that that strike on that government building, that looks like, I know it's been depicted as an assassination attempt. That's one of those decapitation events.
Right. Well, it certainly looks like it was a precise weapon that went in there. If you look really close, you can actually see the projectile enter the screen before the big explosion. So it does look like it was aimed. One source says it was an attempt to get rid of the local leadership as it hit the regional administration building. No word on casualties from that particular strike, but you have a lot of casualties in the town of Kyiv where that strike was. And that is because the town was really subject to indiscriminate rocket fire throughout the day. Also indiscriminate, a cluster bomb, which is alleged to have also been used in Kyiv. What a cluster bomb is, it's a bomb that releases high in the sky and releases a bunch of little bomblets. It can spread over the area as large as a football field. It's considered illegal by most nations to use in warfare simply because you can't aim all the bomblets. You can hit the civilian population, particularly if you use it in an urban area. You're going to get collateral damage. Also, those bomblets don't all explode. They can explode years to come with unintended targets. To the west of Kyiv, where you saw that, Otyrka is the town where there was a military base. We've got reports of a direct hit with artillery on that military base, resulting in somewhere around 70 dead Ukrainian soldiers, according to the information we're getting out there now. To the far south, Kherson, there's a pitched battle underway, and it appears the target is a bridge that stretches over the Dnieper River. Key bridge because it connects the mainland with the Crimean Peninsula. As you know, the Russians have fortified their positions on the Crimean Peninsula. Of course, all eyes today are on this 40-mile-long convoy of Russian personnel, supplies, and armament moving south from the border with Belarus. We don't have a lot of updated information on this convoy. Just the latest information, of course, talks about the size of it, and also the satellite imagery says that there is supplemental helicopters and infantry in the north across the Belarus border. Guys, back to you.
So can I ask you, Mike, how would you if I just asked you about Lviv, what type of damage has been done so far to that city? How populated is it compared to when it was before this war started? And how many just have evacuated?
As far as the population is much thicker than it was before the war started because so much of the traffic has come west. The attacks are going in from the north, the south, and the east, and that drives all the refugees west. This is kind of a depot before you get to the border. The train station here is just packed with people trying to get out. It's absolute chaos at the train station here. As far as strikes around Lviv, there have been strikes to the north and south and the outskirts of the city. We haven't heard the air raid sirens in a little while, and we're grateful for that.
Absolutely. You know, Mike, in describing what we have seen overnight, you talk about the cluster bomb. There are also reports, apparently, that vacuum bomb was used. Those are both both war crimes. At what point does the International Criminal Court start to look into and say, hey, Russia, you're breaking all the rules and somebody needs to stop it?
Well, at some point, but what can they do? If you can't stop Putin from invading a sovereign nation. Particularly, you talk about the vacuum bombs, that would have been in the area of Kharkiv, presumably, and that's where you saw the delivery system for those vacuum bombs is that multiple launch rocket system, which we saw being used in Kharkiv.
Gotcha.
All right, thank you so much, Mike. Those are the thermobaric weapons. They explode your lungs. They vaporize bodies and they crush internal organs. They're among the most powerful non-nuclear weapons ever developed. And as you said, they are illegal according to the Geneva Convention, but they are still being used by Russia. Some companies are trying to stop Russia from invading Ukraine. They are trying to squeeze them economically. Shell is exiting all Russian operations, including a partnership with a Russian energy conglomerate. Dell has suspended product sales in Russia and Ukraine. Meta, which is Facebook's parent company, has barred heirs from Russian state media. Twitter's pausing advertisements. Delta stopped alliance with Russia's flagship airline. Tesla is helping Ukraine. FedEx and UPS are suspending shipments into Russia. And BP is divesting almost 20% stake in Russian-controlled oil company Rosneft. So they are trying to squeeze them. In Airbnb, there's so many refugees. I heard you talking about this, Brian, on Fox and Friends First. There are 520,000 refugees from Ukraine. They're going into neighboring countries like Poland and Austria and Romania. And Airbnb is saying, we are going to allow you to stay for free temporarily.
Yeah, if you look at overall in the military, this phase 2 of their operations underway. They're beginning to choke off the cities and run helicopter interdiction flights around the Polish border. That's where all the aid and the armament, for the most part, is going to come through. And then we're going to have that clash. If it's going to be a NATO vehicle that's bringing in these armaments and this food and water, and they blow it up, is that a Rule 5 violation? It certainly seems like that. So if the main hope, back to your point, Ainsley, is that the sanctions become so severe and put such heartache into the Russian people, they make it clear we will not stand for this, which makes you wonder the desperation that Vladimir Putin showed a couple of days ago when he said, hey, by the way, I've gotten my nuclear forces ready for action because of some of the actions and sanctions taken by NATO. It made everyone wonder, are we going to get on a nuclear footing? Because according to reports, we have a lot of nuclear weapons, too. Joe Biden was asked, and he had a very verbose answer.
Mr. President, should Americans be worried about nuclear war?
No.
Right.
Well, that's what you want to hear, you know, given the ratcheting up.
Is it naive to say that, though, when
of course
you know
it is.
that Russia has nuclear?
Well,
nuclear
he's blowing it off. It's so ridiculous.
But think about what you had said a moment ago about the thermobaric vacuum bomb.
They're not supposed to use them.
Absolutely, it's a war crime. But to Mike Tobin's point, you know, who's going to enforce it? But it's the biggest bomb they've got short of an atomic tactical bomb. So obviously they know the rules and what's going on. Right now, the invasion is costing Mr. Putin, it's estimated by UK sources, at $15 billion a day. We are, the United States, actually subsidizing part of that because we continue to buy oil from Russia. Now, Russia knows that we're turning the screws, and I'm sure the president tonight is going to talk more about that as well. But what he's expected to do, Mr. Putin he's expected to ask China to buy close to $100 billion worth of Chinese assets in Russia to raise the cash to keep the war and the economy running. Now, as you look at that government building in Ukraine that took the direct hit, there is one bit of really good news today, and that is Ukrainian pilots have arrived in the country of Poland. 70 jets have been donated from European countries, and they are flying them back to Ukraine, which is great. They are older Russian-made planes. There are 28 MiG-29Ss from Poland, 12 from Slovakia, and 30 planes from Bulgaria. And think about it. If you've got a 40-mile-long convoy of tanks and armored vehicles, it would be great if you had a bunch of jets.
Fly over them?
Sure, they've gone to Poland now to pick up the jets. They're going to fly them home.
And here's what's so maddening. We have retired a bunch of F-16s and F-18s, and Michael Waltz and Lindsey Graham identified this and says, guys, instead of mothballing them, we're about to have a war with Ukraine and Russia. Why don't we give them or lend them to give them to the Ukrainians to be able to use? We're able to train them. They got some really good pilots. We got a few months to build up to that. No answer from Joe Biden. Don't worry about it. So now they're using MiGs instead of F-16s.